Have you ever watched an entire room laugh at someone only to realize they were laughing at the strongest person there? That happened to me. My name is Charlie Dean. I'm 47 years old, and for 25 years, I served as an officer in the United States military. The strange part? The people laughing at me weren't strangers. They were my father's closest friends, and the loudest person in that room was Sophie Donovan, a 27-year-old professional boxer who looked me in the eyes and said, "One round is all I'd need to knock you out, old man." Everyone laughed. No one knew who I really was. And I wasn't about to tell them. People think strength is loud. Real strength is usually silent. After retiring from the military, I moved back to Dallas, Texas, to spend time with my father, Richard Dean. My mother had passed away 3 years earlier, and Dad had become quieter with each passing month. He often told me, "Son, you've spent your whole life protecting this country. Now let me enjoy having my son close to home." Those words meant everything to me. So I left behind the uniforms, the medals, and the military life. I wanted peace. I had no interest in proving myself to anyone. A few weeks later, Dad invited me to a barbecue at the home of his oldest friend, James Harrison. "Everyone's excited to meet you," he said. I smiled. "I'm just Charlie now." If only I had known how that afternoon would change everything. The Harrison family lived in one of the nicest neighborhoods in Dallas. Luxury cars filled the driveway. Music echoed through the backyard. More than 50 guests had gathered. As soon as we arrived, James wrapped my father in a hug. Then he looked at me. "So this is your son?" Dad nodded proudly. "My boy finally came home." James shook my hand. "Military guy, huh? You don't look very intimidating." I laughed politely. That's probably a good thing. A few people chuckled. Then someone shouted, "Sophie's here!" The entire party turned toward the driveway. A black SUV pulled in. Out stepped Sophie Donovan. She carried herself like a champion. Confident, focused. Every guest rushed over to greet her. People asked for photos. Some even wanted autographs. James couldn't stop smiling. "That's my daughter," he proudly announced. "Professional boxer, national champion. She's making this family famous." Dad smiled politely. I clapped with everyone else. Success deserves respect. But I noticed something immediately. Sophie loved attention, and she enjoyed reminding people how strong she was. After greeting everyone, she walked straight toward us. "Dad, who's this?" James answered proudly. "Richard's son, Charlie." She looked me up and down. "Military?" I nodded. "Retired," she smirked. "You don't exactly look dangerous." The people standing nearby laughed softly. I simply smiled. "Looks can be deceiving," she laughed. "That's cute." I ignored the comment. Because in my experience, the people who constantly talked about strength usually had something to prove. I had nothing to prove. Or at least, that's what I believed. Until everything changed. The afternoon was supposed to be about family. Instead, it slowly turned into a show. Every few minutes, someone asked Sophie about her latest fight, her training, or the championship belt she had recently won. She answered every question with confidence. There was nothing wrong with being proud of your achievements. But after a while, her confidence turned into arrogance. James Harrison laughed and pointed at me. "Charlie, you should step into the ring with Sophie someday. She needs someone to practice on." The guests burst into laughter. I smiled politely. "I'll leave the boxing to the professionals." That should have ended the conversation, but Sophie wasn't finished. She crossed her arms and looked straight at me. "What's wrong? Military training isn't enough?" More laughter. I took a sip of my drink and stayed calm. Military service teaches discipline, not showing off. Her smile disappeared. "Sounds like an excuse." Someone in the crowd shouted, "Come on, Charlie, let's see what you've got." Others joined in. "One friendly round. Don't be scared." My father shifted uncomfortably. He quietly whispered, "Son, you don't have to prove anything." I nodded. "I know, Dad." So I politely declined. "Thank you, but I'll pass." Instead of respecting my decision, the crowd took my silence as fear. One man laughed loudly. "Looks like the soldier is afraid of a girl." Everyone laughed again. I noticed my father's smile disappear. He wasn't embarrassed because I refused. He was hurt because people were disrespecting his son. That was the moment I wanted to leave, but Sophie took one more step toward me. "Tell me something honestly," she said. "Did you actually do anything dangerous in the military, Or were you just sitting behind a desk? The backyard became completely silent. For the first time, her words bothered me. Not because they insulted me, but because they insulted thousands of men and women who had served with honor. Still, I kept my emotions under control. Every person who wears the uniform serves in their own way, I replied calmly. She rolled her eyes. That's not an answer. Before I could respond, James laughed. Charlie, don't take it personally. Sophie just loves competition. I smiled politely. Competition is fine, disrespect isn't. My father placed his hand on my shoulder. Let's go home, I agreed. As we walked toward the car, I could hear people whispering behind us. He looks tough until someone challenges him. Guess the military isn't what people think. Sophie's right. He backed down. Dad remained quiet during the drive home. When we reached the house, he finally spoke. I'm sorry, son. I looked at him. For what? I invited you there. They had no right to treat you like that. I smiled. It's over, Dad. Or at least, I thought it was. The next morning, my phone wouldn't stop vibrating. Friends from my military days were sending me screenshots. There was a video online. Someone at the barbecue had secretly recorded the entire conversation. The clip was titled, Professional Boxer Humiliates Retired Military Guy. Within 24 hours, it had thousands of views. The comments were brutal. Another fake tough guy. He ran because he knew he'd lose. The old man folded under pressure. People who had never met me were judging my entire life from a 2-minute clip. I put my phone down. None of it mattered, until my father walked into the room carrying his tablet. His eyes looked heartbroken. Charlie, he said quietly, they're making fun of you everywhere. I took the tablet from his hands. Then I saw something that changed everything. Sophie had posted a public message. If Charlie Dean ever finds enough courage, I'll gladly meet him in the ring. 1 round is all I'll need. Over 50,000 people had already liked the post. That wasn't confidence anymore. It was public humiliation. I stared at the screen for several seconds. Then I looked at my father. He didn't ask me to fight. He didn't ask me to defend our family name. He simply said, whatever you decide, I'll stand beside you. For the first time since retiring, I made a decision. I picked up my phone, opened the post, and typed just one sentence. I accept. Within minutes, the internet exploded. The moment I posted I accept, my phone exploded with notifications. Thousands of comments poured in within hours. Most of them weren't encouraging. This old guy is about to get embarrassed. Sophie will knock him out in 30 seconds. Someone stop this before he gets hurt. Very few people believed in me. Honestly, I didn't expect them to, because they only knew Charlie Dean, the quiet, retired man. They didn't know Captain Charlie Dean, the officer who had spent 25 years leading soldiers through some of the toughest training the military could offer. I had never talked about my past. Not because I was ashamed of it, but because I believed medals belonged in a drawer, not in conversations. 2 days later, the organizers announced that the fight would be held as a charity exhibition boxing match. Official boxing rules, protective equipment, licensed referee, medical staff on site. 3 rounds, no special treatment for anyone. That was exactly what I wanted. This wasn't about hurting Sophie, it was about restoring my father's dignity. The following morning, I drove to a small boxing gym on the other side of Dallas. The owner looked at me for a moment before smiling. Charlie, I haven't seen you in years. His name was Marcus Reed. Years ago, before one of my overseas deployments, we had trained together. He knew exactly what I was capable of. He looked at the news playing on the television and laughed. So, the internet thinks you're finished? I smiled. Apparently. Marcus shook his head. They're about to learn the difference between muscles and discipline. For the next 3 weeks, we trained every morning before sunrise. No cameras, no social media, no interviews, just hard work, running, footwork, defense, timing, conditioning. I wasn't trying to become stronger than Sophie. I was preparing to become smarter than her, because boxing isn't only about power, it's about patience. Meanwhile, Sophie was everywhere. Television interviews, podcasts, sports channels. Every interviewer asked the same question. Are you worried about fighting a former military officer? She laughed every single time. Military isn't boxing. He's too old. Experience won't save him. Her confidence made headlines. Mine remained silent. One evening, my father walked into the garage while I was wrapping my hands after training. He stood there quietly for a moment. Then he said, "You never told anyone how much you've sacrificed." I looked at him. I didn't serve for applause. His eyes filled with tears. "Your mother would be so proud of the man you've become." Those words meant more than every medal I'd ever earned. I hugged him tightly. This fight isn't about proving I'm stronger. It's about proving that respect still matters. Fight night finally arrived. The arena was packed. More than 5,000 people filled the seats. Millions had already watched clips online. As I stepped into the building, I could hear people whispering, "That's Charlie? He looks calm. He's about to get destroyed." I ignored every word. Marcus adjusted my gloves. Then he looked me straight in the eyes. "Remember why you're here?" I nodded. "To keep my promise to my father." The announcer's voice echoed through the arena. In the blue corner, undefeated professional boxer, Sophie Donovan. The crowd erupted. She entered with flashing lights, loud music, and thunderous applause. Moments later, the announcer called my name. In the red corner, retired United States military officer, Charlie Dean. There were only a few cheers. Most people stayed silent. Some even laughed. I climbed through the ropes. Across the ring, Sophie smiled confidently. She walked to the center and whispered, "Last chance to quit." I smiled back. "No. This is your last chance to learn respect." The referee stepped between us. "Protect yourselves at all times. Touch gloves." Sophie barely tapped my glove. The referee stepped back, raised his hand, and signaled for the opening bell. Ding! The opening bell echoed through the arena. The crowd erupted as Sophie Donovan charged forward with confidence. She was fast, much faster than most people could react. She threw a quick jab, followed by a sharp right hand. I blocked both. The audience cheered for her aggression. To them, it looked like she was dominating. To me, she was revealing every habit she had built over years of competition. I stayed patient. No wild punches. No unnecessary risks. Just footwork, defense, timing. By the end of the first round, Sophie looked frustrated. She had landed very few clean punches. As I walked back to my corner, Marcus smiled. "She's fighting with emotion," he said. "You fight with discipline." I nodded. Exactly what I was waiting for. Round 2. The bell rang again. This time, I moved forward. Not recklessly, carefully. Sophie expected another defensive round. Instead, I surprised her with a quick jab, followed by a clean right cross. The punch landed perfectly. The crowd gasped. For the first time that night, Sophie took a step backward. She smiled, but I could see doubt in her eyes. She attacked again, throwing combinations. I slipped one punch, blocked another, then answered with 2 clean scoring shots. The audience grew quiet. Even the commentators changed their tone. Charlie Dean's defense is exceptional. His timing is unbelievable. This is much closer than anyone expected. When the second round ended, the arena was no longer laughing. People were watching in complete silence. Before the final round, my father stood near the ring. He wasn't shouting. He simply looked at me with pride. That single look reminded me why I had accepted this fight. Not for revenge, not for fame, but because no father should watch his child be publicly humiliated. Final round. The referee signaled us forward. Sophie knew she needed a strong finish. She attacked with everything she had. I stayed calm. Years of military training had taught me something priceless. When people lose control, they make mistakes. Halfway through the round, Sophie threw a powerful right hook. She overcommitted. I stepped to the side, landed a clean counter, then another precise jab. The punches scored cleanly under boxing rules. The crowd jumped to its feet. 10 seconds remained. Neither of us looked for a knockout. We boxed with respect until the final bell. Ding! The fight was over. Both of us stood in the center of the ring, breathing heavily. The arena became completely silent as the scorecards were collected. The announcer unfolded the result. By unanimous decision, he paused. The winner, Charlie Dean. For a second, no one reacted. Then the arena exploded. Not because someone had been knocked out, but because everyone had witnessed something far more powerful. Patience had defeated arrogance. Experience had defeated pride. Sophie lowered her head. Then she walked toward me. The cameras followed every step. She removed one glove and held out her hand. "Charlie, I judged you by your age. I judged you without knowing your story. I was wrong." I shook her hand firmly. Being strong isn't about making others feel small. The strongest people help others stand taller. She nodded, holding back tears. "Thank you for teaching me that." James Harrison climbed into the ring. He looked completely different from the proud man at the barbecue. His eyes were full of regret. He stood in front of my father. "Richard," he said quietly, "I'm ashamed of the way we treated Charlie. I should have stopped it before it went too far." My father smiled gently. "An apology takes courage." James turned toward me. "Charlie, can you forgive an old friend?" I stepped forward and hugged him. "We're all human. What matters is what we learn after we make mistakes." As we left the arena, reporters surrounded me. One of them asked, "How does it feel to silence everyone who doubted you?" I smiled. "I didn't come here to silence anyone. I came here to remind people of one simple truth. Never underestimate someone because they're quiet. And never mistake kindness for weakness." That night, Sophie uploaded a new video. It wasn't about losing. It wasn't about excuses. She looked directly into the camera and said, "Today I learned that respect is worth more than any championship belt. Thank you, Charlie Dean." The video spread across the internet. This time, not because of humiliation, but because of humility. People often ask me what the greatest victory of my life was. It wasn't earning medals. It wasn't winning that boxing match. It was seeing my father smile with pride again. Because sometimes, the sweetest revenge isn't hurting the people who doubted you. It's becoming the kind of person they never expected you to be.